Now, when you think Rockstar Games these days, you're probably thinking Grand Theft Auto 6, that sort of thing. Mostly with negative connotations. Well, with me anyway, I think with negative connotations, the way they've been doing things at the moment. But that's not the topic of this video. Back in the day, Rockstar used to reliably release like a game like at least once a year from about 2001 to about 2013. And then when Grand Theft Auto Grand Theft Auto 5, sorry, came out, they kind of became a bit stagnant with their releases. And one of their classics from that era of games, when they used to release things like once a year, is the original Red Dead Redemption. Um, Originally, Red Dead was already a franchise with Red Dead Revolver releasing in 2004, which that game originally was actually going to be a sort of arcade style sort of game release published by Capcom originally. But obviously, Capcom just weren't a fan of the project. They didn't see faith in it. Rockstar, being heavily influenced by cinema, they saw the Western style, the spaghetti Western themes of it, and they jumped on the chance to pick up Angel Studios and turn them into Rockstar San Diego, where they developed the project into Red Dead Revolver. Angel Studios were quite a popular studio at the time. They mostly did work on like ports and stuff. They did the exceedingly good port of Resident Evil 2 on the N64, but Angel Studios were mostly known, or Rockstar San Diego as they're known as, are mostly known for the Red Dead franchise. But also they also made, or they kind of, well, they made the Rage engine. They helped out do the Rage engine, but they were the main sort of spearheads of making that engine for GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption. Although when it was first demoed, it was for Rockstar Presents Table Tennis. But 6 years after the release of Red Dead Revolver, we got Red Dead Redemption. Technically a sequel, but more of a spiritual successor, I would say. Or I would say it's more of a reboot. Um, Honestly, I remember being a bit like, when it was first announced, but when it finally came out, I fell in love with it. And I was 17 at the time when it came out, because it came out, well, for 16 years ago, 2010. It taught me how to appreciate slower paced games. So in this video today, this is going to be talking about my experience with Red Dead Redemption, and to this day, I still love it. The footage I'll be showing will be from the PlayStation 5 version, but even on the 360 and the PS3, it still looks really good. And I also own this game on Switch, so just. But anyway, enough babbling for me. Let's talk about Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption takes place in 1911 during the very, very last days of the Old West. Kind of funny considering the themes of Red Dead 2 is about the Wild West dying, and it treads on similar sort of themes, the second one with the first one, but this one's like right in the sort of like what you would call the modern era of the 20th century, where automobiles are becoming more commonplace and the early stages of the federal government are being made in America, after the sort of fiasco of the Pinkerton Detective Agency from the 19th century. And there's a lot of commentary on modern America in this game. Not really anything unusual about Rockstar, but the main focus of the narrative, of course, is John Marston. John Marston, being a former outlaw of Dutch's gang, he is tasked with taking out some of his old former gang members by the federal government, not by choice, because they've taken his family hostage, and he must go on this adventure to take down his former gang members, Bill Williamson and Javier Escuela. And what I like about it is that if you've played Red Dead 2 specifically, you see that John doesn't want to be in that life anymore. He's grown as a man. Um, he just wants the quiet life, but the government, being the government, they want to get their noses in and send him to do things that he doesn't want to do, make him go back to his life of violence, basically, and debauchery, crime, that sort of thing. And it works really well because John doesn't really want to do this, and through the dialogue, he's very hesitant to tell people what he's doing, especially at the start of the game.
Miss McFarland, I'm married. I have a son. I had a daughter, but she died. Years before that, I rode in a gang. We robbed banks, trains, held people ransom. We killed people we didn't like. Bill Williamson was in that gang. Now, if I don't capture my former brother in arms, great harm will befall my family.
Although halfway through the game, he just blatantly tells people what he's doing because he's just fed up of just running errands for the government. But at the start, he's quite quiet, quite reserved. Doesn't really want to tell people. With the introduction of the game specifically, when he's on the train, he's just sat there listening. You don't actually hear John Marston speak until about 10, 15 minutes into the game, because it's mostly like with a lot of westerns. Um, it's all about the atmosphere and the lack of dialogue. It's about the facial expressions. It's basically John just listening to people on the train talking about the politics, their religion, their beliefs, that sort of thing. And it works really, really well. And you don't hear John talk until he gets to the saloon in Armadillo. And as I said, it's about the build up, the tension, and it's something that Rockstar took from various Western movies, but more specifically movies directed by Sergio Leone, like the Dollars trilogy, Once Upon a Time in the West, Fistful of Dynamite, or Duck, You Sucker, if you want the original title. Um, yeah, they've taken loads of cues from old westerns from the 60s, specifically spaghetti westerns, and including the soundtrack done by what's his name, Woody Jackson, is very much sort of Ennio Morricone sort of soundtrack homage, and the dialogue in general is very well written. It's very well acted as well for a game from 16, 17 years ago in 2010. This is when Rockstar kind of was growing up with their sort of writing, and then they made GTA 5. No offense to that game, but that writing kind of went down a bit. But with GTA 4 and Red Dead Redemption, it just showed that Rockstar were maturing, and that video games were becoming more than just like playthings. They were becoming legitimate art. They were becoming stories that could be on par, if not greater than films and books. And I feel like the dialogue doesn't treat the player like an idiot. They don't throw like heavy exposition at you. People argue like the horse rides when they're just talking back and forth do that, but that's kind of the point. Like in real life, when you're riding, it'd be like if it's in real life, you're riding with someone, you probably would have quite lengthy conversations because news doesn't travel as fast as it would say today, because like say something happens in another town, it probably wouldn't get to the next town to about 6 months to a year in terms of that news. But John Marston's acting by Rob Wheatoff is fantastic. It still holds up really well.
Fort Mercer, you them one of them Williamson boys.
Calm down.
Go on, shoot him, mister. Shoot him.
Come what, you getting cute with me, boy?
What's going on here?
I got me one of them Williamson boys.
I got me one of them idiots who give marshals a bad name.
Jonah, put your gun down.
It's just his delivery. It's just so good. And 17 years later, it's still brilliant. Absolute 16, 17 years later, still brilliant. And still holds up as one of Rockstar's best narratives. Red Dead Redemption 1. 2, I would say, is better from like the acting and the animation, but I still think the overall theming and pacing of the narrative, the first one, is much, much better. Because 2 is much bigger, of course, because and some parts of the narrative tend to drag a bit longer than they should. But Red Dead Redemption 1's narrative is still absolutely fantastic, and like I play it once a year annually because I love it. It never gets old. It never gets old because it's like rereading a classic book that I love, or rewatching a film that I love once a year. I do this with Red Dead Redemption. But yeah, the narrative, it twists, it turns. There's betrayal. There's lots of social commentary on politics, even modern politics, even though it's set in 1911, about how the government are more like criminals than the criminals that they're hunting, as they extort more than the actual criminals. Because John basically justifies what he did in Dutch's gang um, as sort of like Robin Hood types, that they never robbed from the poor. They only robbed people that deserved it. They're basically the tycoons that had too much money, that sort of thing. It's a sort of classic trope with any sort of outlaw story, like, okay, we only rob people that deserve it or deserve it, and give money to the poor. And if you play Red Dead 2, that sort of ideal kind of goes out the window like by the third act. But you know, it's a classic trope, but the reason why it's so well done is because it's well written. The dialogue is just well performed. I know I'm waxing lyrical again, and it's just fantastic. But enough about the story. Let's talk about like overall the gameplay and its open world, shall we? Now, gameplay wise, if you've played any sort of Rockstar title recently, you would be pretty familiar with this. I mean, it took the foundations of Grand Theft Auto 4 but added a more organic twist to it. And when I say organic, the world is not as video gamey, if you know what I mean. Um, Basically, it's that sort of thing. You've got the initials on the map for the main missions, where you have like question marks for like strangers and freaks missions, where you just come across like people in the world that they're side quests basically, and do like various errands for them. But it's just what they introduced in this one were the sort of world events where random things will happen. This could be like someone getting robbed in the middle of town. You go find the robber and get their money back, or people trying to ambush you on the road and steal your horse and your various belongings, as well as just people asking you for help and that sort of thing. What I like about this, it adds a layer of believability for its world. Yeah, they do become a bit more formulaic, sorry, and they start to repeat after a while. But honestly, where they don't happen too often, it feels fine. It feels organic. It makes the world believable, and you feel like you're just exploring this sort of a desert Wild West world where people can kill you around every corner, or even the people that you think are asking for help, they end up ambushing you and trying to steal your stuff. And I like that in open world games where they add that layer of believability, where it's just not people just standing there with question marks above their head for like missions. Like as much as I like Assassin's Creed games, the RPG ones, they have that sort of problem. But Red Dead Redemption doesn't do that. You have believable people walking around a believable world. They have routines. They go to bed. They go to work. They go to the pub in the evening, or bar, saloon, to put it in American terms, in the evenings to relax, that sort of thing. It just adds that layer of believability, which I don't feel you get in open world games anymore. Not only that, just exploring the world just feels great. Like it's not just the humans you have to watch out for; it's the wildlife as well, because you could be in the middle of harvesting a plant and suddenly you get savaged by a cougar or a bear. It's deeply frustrating sometimes because you get booted back to the last save in the previous town. But not only that, the gameplay in terms of like the gunplay feels great. I know that's something that people complained in the second one for it being a bit slower paced and more realistic, because it is more realistic in the second one where you can't just spam shots because you have to time your shots carefully. This one is a bit more arcadey, it's a bit more free flowing. You can slide into cover like a madman and spam the trigger as fast as your index finger can go. Still feels great. It feels arcadey, which is fine. I don't mind it. I don't mind either style of Red Dead 1 or 2. In terms of like how good it feels to play, yeah, Red Dead 1 feels better to play. Horse riding feels really good. A lot of games during this period just couldn't quite get the feel of riding a horse feeling good. And Red Dead Redemption was the first one to make the horses look good when they run, because they did motion capture on the horses, so you will see their muscles contort and move as they ride. And for like a 2010 game, it's impressive, and it's still very impressive now, which they made even more impressive in the sequel. Yeah, horses feel great to ride. Shooting from a horse feels great to ride. That's another thing too. Combat from horses generally in a lot of these games, when they do period pieces, just feels very bad. I can't think of any sort of like intellectual word for it, but it feels bad. But in Red Dead, it feels good because what it does when you're aiming your gun on your horse, it guides your horse on the road for you. So you don't have to worry about steering your horse as you're in combat on horseback, which is great. And some people say, oh, that's like streamlining. It's like, yeah, but you don't want to be running into a wall as you're shooting someone behind you. And it works great. There is an honor system in the game too. So if you do good deeds, your honor will go up. You do bad deeds, your honor will go down. And what I like about it, people will remark about like your honor, what you did in a previous town or mission, that sort of thing. They'll remark what you've done, and it's pretty basic stuff. But it adds again that layer of believability in its world, and I like that. And your honor can go down, but if you wear a bandana, if you rob a train, or just start shooting innocent people, your honor will stay the same. It won't go up or down if you wear a bandana around your face, because people don't know who you are because you're masking your identity. And where your reputation and honor start spreading across the world, random people will challenge you to showdowns, which I like. They're not particularly difficult. You just have to draw at the right time and just aim for the head, and then John will like shoot them like several times in the head. And I think like the first bullet got him the first time, John. All right, but I like the showdowns. You've got to have showdowns in Western games. It wouldn't be a Western game if you didn't have showdowns. What I like about the showdowns, they just feel absolutely cinematic. They're brutal, and the graphic detail, which I'll get into the graphics later, is the bloody. It's over the top. It's like ugh in some places, and it's fantastic. And just I just love just walking through the towns, like strutting my stuff as like as an outlaw, and then someone goes like, "I'm going to challenge you to a showdown," and I end up kicking their ass. It's just fantastic. You just feel like this ultimate like Clint Eastwood style outlaw, and just all the gameplay elements just fall together. You can play poker, you can go get drunk, you can throw horseshoes, you can go hunting. Hunting's good, especially when you want to make a lot of money, and you just feel like this sort of outdoorsman in video game form in this game, which I think they got down better in the second game, the outdoorsman type stuff, like hunting, like because you can carry like skins on you throughout the entire game, they never rot, whereas in the sequel they do rot eventually. But yeah, it still holds up pretty well, the gameplay in Red Dead 1. And let's talk about like the graphical detail and how it looks even today in the next section. And honestly, to put it short before I get into that section, it still looks good for a 16-year-old game. I think it holds its own in today's sort of gaming market. So Red Dead Redemption's visuals and presentation, I think, still hold up exceedingly well, even 16 years later. On because even the PS5 version doesn't do much. It's just a port. It just upreses it to 4K, 60 FPS with some HDR. But I think even like with like the current textures and assets, it still holds up pretty well. The atmosphere is something I really like in this game compared to the second. It's that sort of a hot, desolate atmosphere, whereas the second one goes for the sort of more Unforgiven style, muddy bogginess of it all, whereas this one goes more sort of classic Clint Eastwood spaghetti western of like being in a desert, being in Mexico, because well, you do go to Mexico in this game. Um, that sort of desolate feeling of being hot, being out in the middle of nowhere, where anything is going to kill you. And what I like is the atmospheric strings of like of the music, where it will change depending where you are. You've got like the sort of classic sort of guitars, like Western themes, and you get the Mexican sort of like mariachi trumpets when you're in Mexico. And music doesn't play all the time in this game because it's more about the atmosphere. You have like the epic sort of like sweeping soundtracks when you're in combat and main missions, that sort of thing. But when you're out and exploring, you just get subtle little uh, flourishes as you explore, and I like that. And it makes you feel alone, isolated on this mission of hunting down your old gang members. And you can tell it's a seventh generation game, but honestly, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It gives it sort of rustic look to it. Character models look really good. They were a massive step up from like GTA 4. They looked more realistic. They animated more realistically because believe they did do full body performance with this game. And the animations still look fantastic during cutscenes. They look fantastic during gameplay too. Like the strut that John does in his walk animation looks great. Um, the environments look fantastic. The sort of the you can see the indentations of horseshoes in the ground on the paths, which I thought kind of it just blew my mind at that point. As I said with the horse animations, you can see the muscles contort as they run. Um, just in general, like the lighting as well, the sunrises, the sunsets in Mexico, you get this massive ball of crimson, this lighting up the sky box of Mexico, and it just looks absolutely fantastic. Like me playing the PS5 version, obviously, it runs at 60 FPS. Back in the day, it was 30 mostly. It would hitch, like it would dip a lot in like some of the busier sections, especially if you're playing on the PlayStation 3. The PlayStation 3 version was the worst version of this game to play because they also had to cut corners with the graphics as well to get it running. Um, it's just it just didn't look good. So if you were wanting to um, play the best version during that period, it was the 360 version. But that's the past. We're here now. You can play it on various platforms like the PS4, PS5, Series X, even the Xbox Series X and One through the original copy on the 360, the Switch and Switch 2. But yeah, it still looks amazing, and this game holds a very special place in my heart, and it gets me through some tough times. It really does. Um, it doesn't matter what sort of mood I'm in. If I'm in a really bad mood, it'll put a smile on my face. If I'm in a really good mood, it'll put a smile on my face. It's that sort of game that I can play in any sort of mood, that it will get me through it. And it's a classic I will play at least once a year because since 2010, I have played it over and over again, at least once a year. And some people do not get bored of it. No, I don't get bored of this game, and it will be held as a classic, I would say, even 16 years after recording this video. I'd say like 40 years later after recording this video, people will still be talking about this game, because they are still talking about this game as a sort of pillar of video game art, because it is a pillar of video game art. And it showed that games weren't just random distractions, they weren't random playthings, they could be legitimate pieces of art. Not to say that there weren't games beforehand that didn't do that, because there were, obviously. But I feel like more people who weren't gamers, who were sort of like a casual observer of the hobby, who play games here and there, which there were a lot of people during this period, because lots of people who didn't necessarily play games had a 360 and PS3, got into this game. And this game, I think, got those people who weren't necessarily into gaming more into the hobby. And that's really it about this video about Red Dead, to be honest. Just a quick one going over my thoughts, my feelings of the game. And yeah, it's still a classic 16 years later at the time recording this. And it still will be held as a classic 16 years after this video. Hope you enjoyed this video. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one.